I grew up in a small village in England. We only had one primary school there, and everyone knew everyone else's business. There was no such thing as an outsider. Everyone was a friend or an acquaintance. There were about 20 houses in the village, and most of them had been there for hundreds of years. The housing stock dated back to the 17th century. One house in particular stood out from all the others. It was called the Elms, and it was abandoned. No one lived there permanently, but it changed hands quite frequently. New owners would move in, do some work on the property, and then either sell it or move into it themselves, only to move out a few weeks later. That was how things stood when I was growing up. And it was always rumored that the house was haunted. The local legend said that if you stayed there long enough, you would go insane. The house itself looked like your typical country cottage with white walls, red window boxers, and a thatched roof. But behind that facade lurked something sinister. As children, we would dare each other to walk up to the front door and knock. Then we'd run away before anyone could answer. I never did this because I didn't want to find out what, if anything, was on the other side of the door. One day, my brother, who was 2 years younger than me, decided that he wanted to play. I told him that I didn't want to take part, but he went ahead anyway. He walked up to the door and knocked 3 times. I was standing behind a tree watching him with bated breath. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and my brother screamed. I ran over and saw that his face had gone as white as a sheet. What happened? I asked. Who was at the door? My brother was too scared to speak. He just pointed at the door and shook his head. I looked down at the floor and saw that he had dropped his brand new football. It was muddy from where we had been playing. I picked it up, brushed it off, and tossed it back to him. Then he ran away as fast as he could. Later on, I heard rumors that someone had moved into the house. They put up scaffolding all around it and covered it with sheets, so we couldn't see inside. I've told that story many times since, but people always roll their eyes and say it isn't true. I know it sounds unbelievable, but I'm telling the truth. My parents told me not to play near the house, so I didn't. One Eid though, I was walking home from a friend's house and I took a shortcut through the fields behind the elms. Just as I reached the house, I heard screaming. It sounded like a woman, but it wasn't any kind of sound I had ever heard before. It was guttural and inhuman. I stopped dead in my tracks and tried to identify the source of the noise, but everything was silent except for the wind. I thought I was going mad. Then I realized that the sound had come from inside the house. Someone, or something, was moving about in the attic. I froze in fear and slowly backed away from the house. I dared not turn around. I walked as fast as I could until I reached the safety of my own home. The next morning, I told my mom about the noise. She didn't believe me, so I won't bother going into details here, but I knew what I had heard. Then, one by one, more and more people started hearing the noise. And after a while, everyone in the village was talking about it. The builders who were working on the house came out one day and told everyone to stay away. They said they were going to board up the windows and doors, but when we looked, they had done nothing. All the windows and doors were wide open and the place looked like a war zone. Bricks and stones lay scattered everywhere and the lawn was churned up into a thick paste. People were afraid to go near the house now, so the kids and I made a game of it. We wrote down daring things on pieces of paper and drew lots to see who would do them. I ended up having to walk through the front door. When I did, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I felt as though I was being watched. And when I turned around, I saw that all the rooms had been cleared out. The place was empty. I ran out as fast as I could. After that, things really started to get weird. My dog, who normally loved to go exploring, refused to go anywhere near the house. And one day, my dad found a dead rabbit lying on the lawn. It hadn't been eaten by any animals, but it was ripped apart limb from limb. Later, we found another dead animal, a pigeon. It had been split open as if by some giant talons. Then one day, A young couple who had recently moved into the village decided to rent the Elms. They were young and stupid and didn't believe in ghosts or any of that nonsense. The first time they stepped inside the house, they screamed bloody murder. That's what we heard anyway. We never saw them again. They left the village as quickly as they had arrived. A little while later, the house was put up for sale again, and one day, a real estate agent from London came out to take pictures for the brochure. Apparently, he was skeptical, too, and thought it was all just a bunch of old wives' tales. But he soon changed his tune. When he entered the house, he found a pile of soil on the floor. He took a closer look and realized that it was fresh. And when he lifted it up, he saw a set of small footprints in the dirt. At first, he thought it was some kind of joke played by the previous owners, but then he noticed that the footprints led to the fireplace. He leaned closer and saw a tiny handprint in the mortars. It was small enough to belong to a child, but what was it doing there? He took some more pictures and left. It hadn't been eaten by any animals, but it was ripped apart limb from limb. A rumor started circulating that the ghost of a young girl had been spotted wandering through the village at night. People said that she was always looking for her father, who had abandoned her and her mother many years ago. They also said that she had been killed by a jealous lover. One day, my friends and I were playing in the woods near our school. We were throwing sticks and stones at each other and just having fun. Then suddenly, one of my friends tripped over. He fell flat on his face and scraped his knee. He started crying, and I knelt down beside him. Then I noticed a tiny handprint in the mud. It looked exactly like the one that the real estate agent had seen in the fireplace. My friends and I looked at each other in disbelief. We had found the ghost's handprint in the mud. We ran out of the woods as fast as we could and hid in the safety of the school building. Then we started making up stories about the print and the ghost. We said that she was haunting the school and that she was looking for her father, who had abandoned her and her mother many years ago. We also said that she had been killed by a jealous lover. One day, my friends and I were playing in the woods near our school. We were throwing sticks and stones at each other and just having fun. Then suddenly, one of my friends tripped over. He fell flat on his face and scraped his knee. He started crying and I knelt down beside him. Then I noticed a tiny handprint in the mud. It looked exactly like the one that the real estate agent had seen in the fireplace. My friends and I looked at each other in disbelief. We had found the ghost's handprint in the mud. We ran out of the woods as fast as we could and hid in the safety of the school building. Then we started making up stories about the print and the ghost. We said that she was haunting the school and that she was looking for her father, who had abandoned her and her mother many years ago. We also said that she had been killed by a jealous lover. One day, my dad brought home an old book about the history of our village. I pored over it, looking for anything that could shed some light on the ghost story. That's when I came across the name Elizabeth Guest. According to the book, she had lived in the Elms with her father, Thomas Guest, in the late 18th century. Her father was a wealthy landowner who had inherited his money from his family. But he lost everything when he invested in a canal project that never got off the ground. He became an alcoholic and died penniless, leaving Elizabeth and her mother to fend for themselves. Elizabeth's mother, Mary, is said to have cursed the house before she died. And ever since then, no one has been able to live there for more than a year without going insane. Elizabeth herself is said to have been killed by her lover, a man named Richard Wharton, who then fled to London and changed his name. He lived there for the rest of his life, haunted by guilt and paranoia, believing that Elizabeth's ghost was following him, reaching out to grab him in his sleep and whisper in his ear, "You can't hide from me forever." After reading that, I closed the book and looked around me in horror. Was that really true? Had Richard Wharton been my great-great-grandfather? And was Elizabeth's ghost still haunting me? That's the end of the video. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe for more videos.